Welcome into the Hot Read Podcast for Wednesday, June the 12th. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, director of published content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. You can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I am joined, as always, by producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Ruhnke. JT, you and I spent the day together once again at Titans practice, OTAs, the last of the offseason. How are we feeling?
Feeling good, last day, no drop passes today, unfortunately. But another football,
actually, that's
another
a
football
lie.
or two.
NWI dropped a pass that was
really
right
bad
in his hands in the end
really
zone.
bad.
We all saw it.
No drop passes from specific media members today.
Nope.
However, footballs continue to find their way into the lake surrounding the Tennessee Titans complex.
They do. 3 balls in the lake this spring. That's 3 over the expected.
I'm glad we've got to return to normalcy though today. You have to have the ball in the lake no matter what. But I do have to say, John must be new around here because in the comment section he's already showing up saying late to their own show. F. Well, John,
you must be an F grade from John.
Yeah, maybe this is finally people are starting to call out Easton Freeze and how late he is. F for Freeze and F for you are always late to your own show. And maybe now you can take that criticism and learn from it. So,
okay, here's the deal. Anyone that listens to this show knows that it's a range. When a show is set for 4 p.m., that means it'll start somewhere between 4 and 4:30. That's the way the show operates. Listen, it's, as I have said before, this is not an excuse, but it is a reason. It is hard on these days where we have camp and I get home at, 2:30 and we have to pull together. We're showing you 18 clips today on the show. Had to pull all those together, had to clip them together, had to adjust the audio because they show up quietly on the platform that we use to stream these shows to you. Have to put them in order, have to do show prep. We put together a high quality program here on the Hot Read Podcast. And in order to do that, sometimes more often than I would like it to be, we are a little bit late to our own program. And that's just, would you rather us be on time and it be a waste of your time, a crappy show? Or would you rather us be a couple minutes late and it be the high quality product that you know and love here on the Hot Read Podcast? That's the trade-off. That's it. It's not to say that I'm trying to be late. And I was with you today at 4 p.m. We were waiting for... We are digitally handicapped. That's the issue here. We're trying to send things back and forth. You got some videos. I've got some videos. Got to compile them. Shane in the comments backing me up here. High quality. John, don't know. John, we appreciate you being here. And we thank you for commenting on today's show. We are sorry we're late, but we promise to make it up to you with this high quality podcast. And we've already got a number of you guys in the comments with us. Strike saying, to be fair, you both appear at the same time. So I feel like JT is forced to, yeah. Strike. Yeah.
I've been sitting in this live stream room. I've been sitting in this live stream room since 3:45. So I really don't want to hear it. I wish I could. Would you like me to start doing timestamps? I can.
I'm just saying, I'll being proved that us being late, everyone just assumes every time we're late on the program, it's Easton's fault. And I think that's unfair. And I think Shrike has a point.
Let's get to the videos. Okay. Let's get to the content. We can argue about
Stoney
this later.
says, don't be a cop caller, John. Yeah, my name's on the marquee of this show. I can start it when I damn well please. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Okay. We've got a lot of stuff to talk to you today about besides just whining about timing. Today was the last day at Titans OTAs, and we heard from a number of, actually all of the rookies. Well, not JC because he's been at the podium, but everybody else, all the rookies we have been waiting to hear from, we spoke to today. We heard from the assistant coaches for the second time this year, which is always enlightening, and we got a lot from them that we're going to show you in just a couple of minutes. Heard from Brian Callahan, of course, kind of wrapping things up. A number of notes just from the final day. And then we're going to hear from a number of these guys, a lot of show and tell for you today. And that's going to be this is going to be the last show of that kind until we get to training camp. So there's that. We need to explain what comes after that, right? So now that the show and tell portion of the spring is behind us and this show is going to change a little bit, we are going to start on Thursday, the second show this week, doing a good old-fashioned Q&A. We've not had one in like a year or something on this show, JT. It's been a long time since we did a Q&A, and we thought what better time than here at the very tail end of the Titans spring programs to have you guys send in any and all questions you have for us about the Titans, about life, unsolicited tips for me because I'm going to be a parent in like 6 weeks, unsolicited Nashville opinions, anything that is on your mind that you would like for us to discuss here on the show. This is your chance. You have about 48 hours to get in your questions. You can DM us. I'm at Easton Freeze. JT's at JT_Ruhnke, at Hot Read Pod on Twitter. Any of those accounts, send a DM with a question or a comment. Of course, you can join live on the day of the show next week, in 2 days, on Thursday afternoon around this same time. You can jump in there and drop your question. You can email me a question at Easton at BroadwaySportsMedia.com if you would like to email a question. That's Easton at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. The point is, Thursday's show is going to stink if you guys don't step up here and send us some questions, send us your thoughts, give us some things to discuss. And we'll be happy to divulge any and all information that we have that we can legally obtain and give to you all. So that is for Thursday. Be thinking about those questions. You have 2 days to submit them. As for today, JT is already showing here. We've got some Bertha and Olga content for you. Once again, the Titans' big fellows on the offensive line getting to work against their 2 specialized sleds today. Doing a little one-arm action, JT, an interesting technique or an interesting approach, I'd imagine, for the sake of balance, for the sake of being able to maintain your block when one of your arms is occupied or tied up or whatever it may be. I'm sure there's a good reason for that, but it certainly makes it look like it's probably a good deal more difficult. And yet every single time I see videos of the Titans O-line working on these sleds, they certainly are improving. I mean, it is a far cry from what we saw those first couple of days where they could hardly move the things. Now they seem to, even the worst linemen on this roster, be able to move them. And I'd imagine that is very helpful to general technique, and hopefully they'll be able to apply that when the season rolls around. Before we get into some of these interview clips, we can just share anything we thought about today's practice, the things that we saw. We weren't allowed to record or allowed to video, but we are allowed to talk about them. And the Titans did a lot of work in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 drills today. The 7-on-7 drills, JT, very entertaining because they come out of the gate. The defense huddles up, and any parents with small children in the audience, now is the time to turn down the volume or cover your child's ears. Grandparents, avert your ears. The defense broke it down on, come get some, bitch. That's how they started the 7-on-7s, which was strong. And it's like, all right, here we go. They're bringing the fire today. And on the very first play, Will Levis hits NWI for a touchdown. And the offense goes crazy. Really tough scene for the defense in that moment. Come out so strong, and then on the first play, allow a relatively easy touchdown to NWI of all people. A tough scene. Will Levis and the entire offense comes crashing into the end zone to celebrate with NWI. Nick hands the ball to Levis, and he punts it directly into the lake, the body of water surrounding the Titans practice facility. So yet another Will Levis ball ends up in the lake. Somebody phoned Jared Stillman. Somebody phoned the shock jock clown posse. We got to talk about balls in the lake at Titans practice. Mr. President, a third ball has landed in the lake around the Titans practice facility. So there's that. And as Tony says in the comments, whoa, buddy, I'm listening outside. I'm going to get a letter from my HOA. Sorry about that. So I know, Stoney, I know you respect the sanctity of this program and our family-friendly content programming here. But today, that was when you have to quote something, sometimes you got to let it fly. So that's, but that was an entertaining way to start, JT. Other than that, and you can share your thoughts. The offense seems to have a better day today than at times last week. Scheming guys up, getting guys open. Again, it's 7-on-7s. They're not in pads. There's not a pass rush in the 7-on-7 drills, but the offensive players finding a way to get open, make some plays. I was relatively impressed with the offense today as compared to the defense.
Yeah, and I will say that, today, like we both mentioned together, it was a lighter day. A lot of the starters not out there. I believe really the only technical starters from the offensive side of the ball out there was, of course, Will Levis. Tajay was also still getting some work in. And then up for debate, Josh Wiley was out there. If you want to call him maybe the starter, maybe not, but like that was
potential starter, right?
Yeah, potential starter. That was basically the extent of the offense. And so, on the other side of the ball, not a lot of starters out there either. The number one corners out there were Trey Avery and rookie Jarvis Brownlee Jr., along with Gabe Judy Lally out there.
Big play from Gabe Judy Lally, by the way. I forgot to mention that.
Yes. Well, actually, it was Jarvis Brownlee Jr. who actually.
Oh, was it Jarvis? I got him mixed up. My bad.
They both Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Gabe Judy Lally, like it's they both wear a number within each other. Like, so, I did later on find out that Jarvis finally showed, like, to be honest, like, he was having a pretty quiet OTAs so far from what I had seen. And, coming out today, getting that interception, despite, I believe whoever number 80 was, I forget his name already. We were talking about how he would be a future UFL player.
Oh, yeah. Shoot. Hang on.
But he ended up slipping on the route, which allowed Jarvis Brownlee Jr. to intercept the ball and run it back for what would have been a
pick six.
Will Levis does try to track him down on the.
That would be Bryce Oliver, UDFA rookie, number 80, Titans receiver.
Yes.
Future San Antonio Brahma, Bryce Oliver.
He fell on the route, allowing Jarvis Brownlee Jr. to have the pick six. It was funny afterwards. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. commented on Will Levis trying to track him down on the fake return for a pick six, saying that he would have never caught him if it were in a real game. And so there was some good fun out there, but he was making plays out there. Fine. He showed up in a big way today, which was nice to see. Also, Kyle Phillips continued to look really good and really fluid as a route runner. And Josh Wiley, as we talk about, as someone who is starting to really come out of his shell, he was one of the most vocal and enthusiastic guys out there. He's really coming into his own, which is really cool to see.
He had a particular end zone celebration that I'm not going to describe in detail, but you turned to me and you go, if you would have told me Josh Wiley would be doing this at an open media practice ever, let alone in year two, I would not have believed you. And yet there he was. He really is coming into his own.
Along the lines of a certain Randy Moss end zone celebration from days of old. Not exactly, but it involves the same sort of area. So that's right.
It's a PG-13 celebration.
Yeah, I would say PG-13 was the way that celebration.
A TV-14 celebration. Yeah,
still,
100%.
Josh Wiley, the quiet tight end, 5th round rookie from last year, becoming that vocal and active guy,
buttoned up choir boy, and now he's really. He's embracing the tight end mold. You know, the very famous Denny Carter tweet about how every tight end tweet is like derp. Like that's he's starting to fall in line with his derpiness. Stoney in the comments saying potential starter Gabe Jeudy-Lally. Thank you for the correction there. And then we're already coming up with nicknames. If Gabe Jeudy-Lally catches on, a little Judge Judy action would be very appropriate, I think. Let's get to some of these clips, JT, and we can start with a potpourri. We're going to save. There's a lot I got from Bill Callahan today. That's going to be the last thing we get to today. So if you're with us, if you're locked in, stay dialed, because the third batch of clips we have is all Bill Callahan all the time, and he is fantastic when we get a chance to speak with him about his offensive line. Our middle section, the second batch of clips, is going to be all rookies all the time. This first one is kind of a potpourri of everything else. So we'll start with Brian Callahan. It was announced today that the Titans will be hosting one of the two. They have two home preseason games this year because they are. It is an even year, and so AFC teams have 8 home games in the regular season. NFC teams have 9, and so when you're on the lesser home team regular season year, you get 1 extra preseason game. That's how it works. So 2 of their 3 will be at home. Was it the Niners and the Seahawks? Are those the 2
correct
home?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So the Seahawks are the team that they are going to be having joint practices with. That was announced today. They'll be doing 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday of that week, where they played the Seahawks on a Saturday. The preceding Thursday and Wednesday will be joint practices with the Seahawks. And Brian Callahan commented on getting that arranged. Here's what he had to say.
You call around as the schedule's being made, sort of after the draft, earlier before the draft, even trying to see who would be willing to work. Try to find guys you're familiar with, and sometimes the league accommodates those requests, sometimes it doesn't. But for the most part, when you request to work with a team, they try to make that work. So we had trying to make sure we had a dance partner, because they get filled up pretty quick with teams practicing together. And so we had requested to work with Seattle, knowing that they'd be one of our likely preseason opponents. And I talked to Mike for a little bit in the spring, and they were all on board. So excited about it. It's great work. I love joint practices. We'll get 2 days of really good work against Seattle prior to our game that Wednesday and Thursday, since we play Saturday. But it's great. I'm looking forward to it. We had some conversations about some of the other teams that we play to see if we could make that work. Logistically, it gets hard. But I'd do 2 weeks or 3 weeks of it if we could. It really changes up training camp, and you get to evaluate your guys versus other people, other schemes. So excited about it. I love doing the joint practices, and I think our guys do too.
I love joint practices. I'm with Coach Callahan on that. They are a lot of fun. They are such a needed change of pace from at least a media standpoint in training camp. You know, they're coming towards the end of the training camp run, mid to late August. You're dying for something new, and to have a new team with new players and like a real competition,
Not
that
just
all
new
is
players
really
as
nice.
well, but a
Sorry?
nice team coming in as well that has a lot of good matchups potentially as well. You talk
Well, that's
about
what I
some of
wanted to
those
ask. Like,
rookies.
what's the number one thing you're gonna like? Just when you heard, okay, Seahawks coming to town, what was the matchup that you're suddenly most interested in? Because for me, it was obvious.
There's a lot for me. There's three that I can really think of for me personally. The first
Okay.
one, that secondary with Devon Witherspoon and those guys going up against that wide receiver core will be really fun. That in turn, Titans wide receiver or that Titans
Cornerback room.
cornerback group going up against DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba
That was
as well.
my number one easy
And then
immediate
also
answer.
this year's
That's an
yeah.
amazing matchup. 3 deep on both sides. The Seahawks receivers versus the Titans cornerbacks will be an awesome test for the new secondary.
And then finally, the rookie Byron Murphy going up against potentially J.C. Latham on that offensive line is going to be really, really exciting. But then also the connections between Mike McDaniel and that team now reuniting on the practice field here with his old cornerbacks coach and Denard Wilson. And then, like Chef Rand points out, Mike McDaniel defense versus Brian Callahan offense is something that Bengals and Ravens fans have seen for a long, long time.
That.
So that's going to be, peak entertainment as well. So yeah, I mean, just bringing, if there was any team, they also thought, Brian Callahan noted that he also was in talks to maybe have the team be San Francisco. But, when you're playing the 49ers or the Seahawks as those two games, either one of those would be a really good outcome. So
Stoney points out here as well, the Seahawks, they got an offensive line that will be a fun gauge of where guys like Tavondre Sweat are and how the Titans defensive line is shaping up against a pretty decent offensive line, young, growing offensive line the Seahawks have. This next clip here, we can keep trucking along. Brian Callahan, once again, he was asked about potentially adding vets as they enter the dark period, at least from a media standpoint, the next 6 weeks until 6-ish weeks until we get to training camp beginning. Odds are the Titans could add, they certainly have the cap space. I think our buddy Zach Lyons this morning pointing out they're sitting around $24-ish million, if my memory serves, of available cap space. They have the room. There aren't a ton of options out there, but we saw, help me
Marcus
out.
May.
Thank you. Marcus May
Miami.
got signed by Miami over the weekend or yesterday or in the last 48 hours. He was signed. And so it kind of leaves the Titans with a Justin Simmons or a bust bumper sticker when it comes to getting, their safety situation figured out. Justin Simmons, not the last safety on the market, but like the last guy that is going to come in and definitely be a starter for you, definitely make some kind of impact if he can stay healthy. That's the dude. Now I was talking with you and Zach and Stoney about this yesterday, trying to jog our memory. Did they ever officially meet with him? Like there was buzz. I remember there being smoke like a month or two ago about the Titans and Justin Simmons. We went back and we found that there was, again, it was smoke, nothing official. They didn't necessarily officially meet. They didn't even necessarily officially talk, but I would guess they had discussions with him, with his camp, kind of sussed out threw some numbers around. And then it's like, well, let's circle back on this. We'll revisit this when we get to close to training camp. Keep us in the loop if you get any other offers, kind of deal. So I don't know. I have been under the assumption, maybe this is very assumptive of me, I shouldn't be doing this. I've been under the assumption for a while that they're going to add a veteran and that it's going to be Justin Simmons. But maybe the question becomes, JT, well, actually, we haven't even played the clip. Let's play the clip and then talk about what it would mean if they ended up not signing anybody.
All the way through. I mean, there's time now we can still add, and then there's also another, player movement at the end of the training camp. We can talk about roster cuts. But yeah, we're still actively looking. We'll never stop that process. We're always looking to add players that we think can help us in the right places. So I would say that's an open-ended question because it's a constant. Our pro personnel guys are always looking to see where we can get a little bit better and maybe add some competition and some depth. So that door's always open until it's not allowed to be open anymore.
So JT, if it comes to pass that we get to July 23rd or whenever it is, we are back at the Titans facility. You are back at the Titans facility because I'll be having a child. What is it going to mean? for your perception of this defense and what you think their limitations may or may not be if they rock with what they've currently got?
Well, I think the perception is that, you're going to be asking a lot of two guys in particular, in Amani Hooker and Elijah Molden, to not only be the starters now, and we know that Amani Hooker has done it before, and now in
I was about
year
to say,
two,
you're really asking way too
you're
much
asking,
of one guy in particular. Yeah,
correct. You're asking Elijah Molden, who even himself said switching last year kind of felt like a rookie year 2.0. Now he feels a lot more comfortable, but still you're asking him to step up in a big way. And not just that, the bigger question is you're asking both of those guys to continue to be available. And that's something that we haven't seen consistently ever. Like, if you do not bring anybody in, that depth is still the biggest concern. I am of the belief that I think Elijah Molden can play that position since moving, and I think that
but in a full-time capacity, or do you think I think he's best as a rotational guy personally. I don't know. If he can stay healthy, maybe he changed my mind.
That's what I think. I think if he is able to stay healthy, I think he has the confidence, and I have the confidence in this secondary coaching staff between Denard Wilson and Chris Harris and Steven Jackson to kind of take Elijah Molden to the next level. But then, like you said, we've really never seen a healthy season from Elijah Molden, and so that's where you get to, after him, Mike Brown and Shaheem Carter. Like, there's not a lot that you want to be rolling out there to play on every single down, right? So
I think you're wrong. I think there is nothing you want to. You said there's not a lot. I would argue there is absolutely nothing you want to roll out there.
Even if it isn't Justin Simmons, and who knows what his camp is kind of thinking about numbers, because he is still a very starting caliber player who should demand at least a decent amount of money. Like, I still think you have to bring in a guy unless they feel really, really good about a UDFA or two, or someone who is on a team and maybe is a post June 1st cut. Like,
I was about to say, nobody on the Titans team, unless nobody has emerged. Like, there hasn't been, and I know it's been limited time so far, but it is super not obvious that anybody. In fact, I would argue it's kind of obvious that they have no other options tied to those two guys right now. There's really not anybody you want doing that job, and so. Yeah, they're going to get somebody. Again, they have essentially said as much that they plan on doing that. Whether or not it comes to pass, we'll see. But that is within the plans for them to go and grab somebody because they desperately need them. I see Jason in the comments, very kind words, says, hello, all. Thank you. All right, love you. Putting words in Jason's mouth. Hello, all. Love your content is what Jason said in the comments. Jason, I love you for loving our content. So thank you for being here. He submits a question. Jason, I hate to do this to you. I wrote this down. We're going to address your question on Thursday. A fantastic question for a mailbag. Lucky you. We're doing a mailbag on Thursday. If folks have just now joined the show a little bit late, Thursday, mailbag. You got 48 hours. Submit questions at Easton Freeze, at JT_Ruhnke, at Hot Read Pod on Twitter. Email me at Easton@BroadwaySportsMedia.com in the comments, all of these things. Send us your questions, your comments on Titans things or parenting advice or anything in between. We will take all of it. Okay.
I need the parenting advice for sure. So
right. Yeah. Totally. Let's move on here to a little quarterback coach talk. Bo Hardigree, the Titans quarterback coach, spoke today. We got two clips for you on the topic of Will Levis, of course. This first one, he was asked about what he has learned about Will after having coached him now for a little bit less than 2 months. What are your thoughts on him as a person and a player? And here's what Hardigree had to say.
Teammate. He's intense. I enjoy that. Works really, really hard. I like he's got great leadership skills. You know, he's constantly talking to different position groups, doing things with them. I think that's important outside of just going out and just throwing the football around. And he's one of the most coachable people I've ever been around, and I respect that, man. He's been really good. He was.
And then Bo was asked about how valuable the live reps that Will Levis saw last year are for him as a player. And he's got a pretty unique perspective on this because, of course, he's coming from Las Vegas where last year he got to see a rookie in Aiden O'Connell get a lot of unexpected live reps during the season. And so he speaks to the value of having those under your belt already.
Fortunate he had a good amount, very similar to who I coached last year, Aiden. In Vegas, those guys got live reps, and you can't get that. And taking year 1 to year 2 into that, and it's just growing, molding himself into situations, intent of the play call, who we're playing against, personnel matchups, all that stuff. You just start building, and that's what we're doing right now. He's new playbook, some new guys around him, and moving that into year 2 and getting some positive, results.
All I'll say on that front is it is interesting to do the mental exercise of what if Ryan Tannehill had never gotten hurt last year and they had continued on with him through the end of the season. I would imagine if they were on that trajectory to be 6-11 or whatever they ended up being, you'd think that at some point, they'd pack it up with, they would have gotten Will in there. But I don't know, knowing Vrabel, knowing the way they operate, I don't know if that would have been the case. And if Will Levis had not played last year or only had 1 or 2 games, man, how would have that changed? Sentences are hard for me today. How would that have changed the way that they have gone about this entire offseason process? Just from the coaching hire, a big part of it sounds like Brian Callahan joining Tennessee was he saw a quarterback on tape that he was willing to hitch his wagon to. If he didn't have that thing to say, okay, that I want to coach that guy, I think I can work with that guy, would he have chosen Tennessee at all? Would he have accepted this job? Would Rand Carthon have gone and built this team the way that they did, which is kind of like this team's, they seem to be wanting to compete now and surround their quarterback with a lot of help. Is that something that they were going to do if Will Levis hadn't, again, had 7 games to play last year and put a decent amount of game rep on tape? It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it's definitely a domino effect that, it would change the entire way we are talking about this right now, because we would have no idea what we would get from Will Levis, and we kind of still don't have an idea what we're going to get.
We have a way worse idea. We'd have, but
we have at least an inclination of what we're going to get from Will Levis this season. And I agree, bringing guys in like Bo Hardegree and Brian Callahan probably don't happen if you don't see Will Levis, because of all the questions surrounding him at the beginning of the draft cycle, right? When he was drafted, falls out of the first round. And, I don't know if that's something that there certainly were other places this last coaching cycle that if Will Levis had not played at all last season, that may have looked preferable for a guy like Brian.
Yeah, that's a butterfly that got stomped. That if it had gone unstomped, I don't know how that would have changed the ripple effects on history. We can move on. One last clip in this bunch, and it is Frank Bush, the Titans linebackers coach, talking about, the middle linebacker situation. And in particular, in this clip, I believe he's referring to one Jack Gibbons, Dr. Gibb, no longer Dr. Gibby, just Gibb, I think, which, as our buddy Stoney pointed out, they took his doctorate away, which seems unfair. But he has been demoted. He is now just a regular citizen. And I just noticed I'm in the background of this video. Was this year? You must have taken this.
I took this one, yes.
Because there I am.
And there's
in the background.
As Stoney said in the comments earlier, Easton with the drip. And I believe was it the running backs coach?
I think it was Randy Johnson.
The
Randy
running backs
Johnson
coach, who really liked your shirt as well and was asking about it earlier.
I like the shirt too. I didn't know it was so popular. The Under Armour pink with the blue floral. You got to break it out in the summer while you can, because it looks stupid to wear a shirt like this in November to a Titans facility. So, anyways. Sorry, just play the video.
Jackson, his main talent is how smart he is. He's a really, really smart kid. He understands football. He's very instinctive. There's some things that, I don't even teach him that he knows about football. So that's a plus for him. It starts there. And then he's working his tail off, just to get in better shape, bend his knees, learn how to strike, all those things that he had residue before, whereas now he's really kind of, deep diving into the technique, and he's done a great job for us. I'm really, kind of happy with where he is. He's leading this defense.
All right. Rookies. Let's do some rookies talk. We got to speak with a number of them today, and we in turn asked many of their position coaches about them. We're going to start with the head coach of the team, Brian Callahan. Before we spoke to the rookies, we asked him, hey, how has this gone with these rookies ever since they showed up on the first day of rookie mini camp 6 some odd weeks ago to today. How have you seen them progress? Have you been satisfied? Like, what's the satisfaction level with where these guys are at? Here's what he had to say.
They've done a really nice job. The rookie experience in their first offseason is always really difficult. They're coming off of college seasons and training for a combine. Then they get into the 30 visits, and then all of a sudden they get drafted. And there's just a lot of things that go on. And then all of a sudden they hit the ground running, and they're expected to learn football and learn new schemes and new systems and really be, professionals for the first time in their life. And that part takes some growing and some learning, and they've done a really nice job of drinking out of that proverbial fire hose, if you will, and taking a lot of information. It's starting to slow down for some of them. Some of them it'll slow down as we get started in camp, and then they play that first preseason game and they realize, it's still just football. And usually by then they're starting to make cases for whatever jobs they're competing for. But it is a process for those guys, and I think they've done a nice job.
So the first rookie we will go to here is one Mr. Jaquan Jackson, 6th round draft pick, wide receiver out of Tulane, famously BFFs with one Tyjae Spears, who was at Jaquan's draft party, was with him on the phone when the Titans called him to say that he would be a Tennessee Titan. And here are 2 clips, the first of which just asking about his transition to joining the team. And then we asked what the biggest adjustment has been for him so far. Let me tell you a little inside baseball here, and JT knows this. The internet, Titans faithful out there, cannot get enough of Jaquan Jackson.
Tank Dell 2.0.
Everything, every short, every video, every thumbnail we put on YouTube, every tweet I have sent, every practice rep I have put online, double, triple, quadruple the numbers. I tanked a lot of Tank Dell comparisons, and we have tried to be responsible with this and say, relax, let's make the roster first with Jaquan. But credit where it's due, he has looked good at practice so far, and I'm curious to see what a guy like him, especially somebody whose skill set, I think, you hear everybody looks good in shorts, and it's true, everybody does. But there are some guys that look better in shorts than even more better, even betterer than even better than others in shorts, just because their play style
is great.
Hello,
Sorry.
Okay, no, it's all right.
Accidentally.
Goodness, our show's falling apart here at the end of spring practice. Some guys' play style lends itself more to playing in shorts because they're not quite as physical. They're not quite as big. They're maybe not quite as strong. I'm not saying Jaquan isn't those things, but he's more of a speedster, small body type. He's not Traylon Burks. He's not going to run dudes over. And so once he gets the pads on, kind of like a Tank Dell, is he going to get thrown around a little bit, or is he going to be able to hold his own when when a cornerback's trying to press him out of his shoes on the line of scrimmage? Is going to be able to handle that kind of work. And so that's what I'm excited to see. But for now, here's Jaquan Jackson. JT, roll the clip.
Back to Tyjae, and it's a blessing to be here. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. I've been dreaming about this since I've been growing up. Just taking it one day at a time. It's a big step in my life, and just not just me, but just being a part of an organization like this, and with Rand and Coach Callahan, with the great things they've been doing before I got here, and what they're doing now is just awesome. Biggest thing, just learning the offense. That's the first thing I would say. Just getting here and adapting and just learning the offense and just being the best version of me and just trying to help everybody around me and just get the knowledge from the vets. You got on defense, you got Arden Key. On offense, you got D-Hop, you got Calvin Ridley, you got Will Mason, and et cetera.
What was the moment you graduated from the excitement we all heard on that first phone call with Rand to okay, this is real, I got to get down to work here?
The same night, me and Tyjae drove back the same night, so we just got in the truck and then got on the road.
What's been the biggest thing you've had to learn?
So the Titans wide receiver coach here, Tyke Tolbert, we asked him about Jaquan Jackson, and he mentions here about how on a day like today, like JT, you mentioned earlier, some of the bigger names not in attendance for the voluntary portion here at the end. And so guys like Jaquan Jackson getting a little bit more run against the defensive ones. Here is what Tyke Tolbert had to say about his rookie receiver.
Person has gotten better every day with camp so far. He's getting more and more confident. As a matter of fact, because it's not mandatory, some guys are here, some guys not here, so he's gotten more reps. I sprinkle him in with the ones a couple times, and he's producing that role as well. So I'm glad to see where he is. I'm looking forward to him, continuing his progress, and especially when pads come on in camp.
So what do you?
So JT, it's time for a final word on spring practice, Jaquan Jackson. I'm sure we're gonna have to litigate this all summer long, and we will. But for now, knowing what we knew, I'm thinking back to you, me, Zach, and Stoney sitting around on the third day, being absolutely sick in the 7th hour of our live stream, and the Titans go with Jaquan Jackson out of the crop of available wide receivers there in the 6th round, being like, okay, whatever. And now, having seen what you've seen, knowing what you know, is your opinion of him changed? Are your expectations changed? What do you make of the spring that Jaquan Jackson has had?
I would say my expectations haven't changed because once again, he is a 6th round guy and there are limitations to his game. Like you said, we're watching him in shorts. Let's see him go against this press man defense that Denard Wilson wants to play. Let's see him go up against this preseason kind of competition between the Seahawks and the Saints and the 49ers. Let's get some bodies on him and see if he can continue to kind of create the same separation, make the same contested catches, climb the ladder to get some of these balls being thrown by Will and Mason and Malik. Like, let's see him do it with the pads. I think there are still a lot of questions to be answered because of those, those same limitations that we thought he had coming in. However, once again, as Zach said during that live stream, the really like Tolbert guy, it seems like a guy that even, teammate Tyjae Spears spoke very highly of. And, if they're going to believe in this guy, I can see why now that they may have gone with a guy like Jaquan Jackson over some of the other guys who were available because, well, now that we see this team and how this wide receiver room is kind of forming, it does kind of fit a very niche hole that is needed on this roster.
Yeah, I agree. My expectations have also not changed. My thoughts on the role that he could have, maybe a little bit higher of a ceiling in my mind. And to his credit, the guy that I've seen out there has looked better at pretty much everything than I thought I was going to see this early in the process. So if he continues to impress me, I will continue to give him his flowers. And so, yeah, I will leave it there on Jaquan Jackson. We can move on here to a little Dylan Johnson talk. If you don't know who is Dylan Johnson, he is the Titans' newest running back, a UDFA out of Washington. Whether you know it or not, you saw him play a lot of football last year because he was doing a lot of impressive things throughout the season with a really dominant Washington team, and then in the playoffs. So I know you've watched him. Had a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns his final year in college, and
really
is
carried
many
that Husky
folks.
Team sometime, yeah.
Sorry.
I was just saying he carried that Husky team at
He
some
did.
portions of the team.
He
It was
did.
a big
He
reason
did.
why
I mean,
they made it
overshadowed
as
at times by Michael Penix and those receivers, but certainly was a big impact. And again, the numbers bear that out. And there were, like you said, a number of games where it was the Dylan Johnson show. And so for a number of those reasons, he is the favorite amongst many to be the Titans' 3rd running back this year. It's going to be the Dylan Johnson, Julius Chestnut off in the preseason games. And so excited to see those two play. But we asked him about learning from two guys that are bona fide NFL running backs in Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard. And here's what he had to say.
In the NFL to this point,
definitely the work ethic, seeing what those guys do on a day-to-day basis and kind of picking their brains in terms of what they see on the field. So that's kind of what I learned from both of those guys.
Next clip here. The Titans defensive line coach Tracy Rocker was asked about T'Vondre Sweat, who we've not seen out on the practice field in a number of weeks. We know that he is dealing with a minor injury in the building, still getting a lot of work in all the meetings and everything, just not out there full blown for the practices yet. But we asked him about what his offseason has been like so far, dealing with having to work around the injury. And here's what he had to say.
Well, the biggest stride was, when he got here, he caught on fast. He learns very fast in the classroom. Boom. Then we got on the field, implementing everything we do defensively was really good. And so it was good. We felt good about it, but we had to slow it down a little bit. And now, hey, we'll wait to training camp and go from there. But that was a positive thing for him.
All right, how about a final word from spring practice on T'Vondre Sweat, JT? We only got to see him very briefly during I believe it was just during the rookie mini camp. We saw him out there, and then he has been absent from everything else that's been open to the media since then. Not ideal. I'm not going to say who cares entirely. It's not ideal for him to not be out there. Brian Callahan has said that. We have said that. It is a bummer, but is it even remotely the end of the world? No. As Tracy Rocker and other coaches said today, the number one thing is to get to training camp and to be healthy to start training camp. And that's where he's going to be. We've been assured that that's not going to be a problem. I think it's a hamstring or something along those lines where you don't want to mess with it. You want to let it get fully healed, even if he could have I think it's the kind of injury where if they had a game this week, he'd be playing in the game. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that it's, let's make sure we get this thing good and healed up, give it a full 6-8 weeks, not going to mess with it, and then get back out there for training camp because we don't want it to linger. We don't want it to become a thing. As for my expectations for him this season or where I think he falls in the pecking order for the Titans or what I think his ceiling can be, none of that has changed for me whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think anything really has changed for me. However, at some point, like you said, we were saying that it wasn't a big deal in, May, right? But if there's still no sign of him come that first week of training camp,
oh yeah,
everything is we sounding every major alarm possible.
Yeah.
So maybe hopefully that is
even if he's there for the first week and then suddenly he's, he misses, the first week of August, he's not out there again, then it's going to be a thing, right? Then it's going to be what's going on? What's the issue here? This is becoming a problem. Yes. And if we find out it's the same issue, then really it's a problem. But until we get there,
I agree.
So, all right, one more clip here. And I just realized this is not a rookie. In my mind, he is because he didn't even make the team last year. And it's kind of a coming out party for him this year. At least I think that it's going to be. I fell in love once. I'm going to fall in love again. Half a rookie.
1.5,
Sure, right. And it's Thomas Rush. We talked about him 2 episodes ago, I believe, when I watched the Edge players all practice long. He is the guy that stood out to me most in that group. And so we spoke to his coach today, Ben Bloom. I asked him what he has seen from Thomas Rush so far in this offseason period, and here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy's he's a hard worker. He's real intentional with everything he does. He's terrific in the classroom, real detailed. And on the field, he's a guy that just gets better. He can listen to coaching, take coaching, and apply it almost immediately. So you see a player do that within a drill. Hey, do this. Try this. He does it. It gets better. Instantaneous feedback. And then the next time he does it, he's starting at a different baseline because he's already doing it at a higher level the next time, and he's consistently building. And I think you've seen that with him in our drill work, that he consistently gets better. He focuses on one thing, improves that, finds another thing, improves that. And, you watch him do one drill 2 months ago, watch him do it now. It's like, wow, Tommy, you've done a heck of a job improving. So, yeah.
I think he's going to be a dude. And I think a part of that, I say a dude, I mean a dude on this roster. Let's not get crazy. But I think a big part of that is, one, he plays with tenacity, and he does something like we flash back to last year in August talking about how Thomas Rush, the Titans gave him the most guaranteed money of any of these UDFAs. They see something there. They like what they see. And he ultimately was a guy that was kind of on the bubble for most people when they did their roster projections, and then he doesn't make it. This year, I think he's going to be firmly in there, and that's partially because I think that he has real talent and can hang, and partially because the Titans' edge room outside of the first 3, I guess, who's going to be on the Titans' edge roster when the depth chart comes out? Okay, Harold Landry, obviously. Arden Key, yep. Rashad Weaver, definitely. Jalen Harrell?
Jalen Harrell, Caleb Murphy, those are the guys who are fighting for it.
Yeah, and Thomas Rush. And I think Thomas Rush out of those 3 is easily the one that has most impressed me at practice so far. So that's why I think he will be the 4th guy, if I had to guess today, but a lot can change, so we'll see. Time for Bill Callahan. Lots of thoughts from Big Coach on the Titans offensive line, and then we are out of here today. First, we have Bill Callahan talking about J.C. Latham. 3 straight clips here. The first of which, and we'll stop in between them, JT. This first one is about the progress that J.C. Latham has made. Obviously, Bill working hand in hand with J.C. since he got here at rookie minicamp. That was 6 weeks ago. Today, How does he look different? Has he progressed in this month and a half? Here's what Bill had to say.
What's interesting about rookies when you first get them, their rate of improvement kind of jumps early because they're given so much information. They're given a lot of new tools. And so, good athletes like JC adapts really fast. So you can see his improvement over the course of the last few weeks that we've had him. So that's real positive. Although, there's a lot of things he's still learning and needs to get better at, and he's working towards that. So it's always a work in progress when you first get a guy like him. And I think nothing really comes to fruition until you're in training camp and everything's live. The speed's faster, the looks are quicker, nobody's pulling off of blocks, so you're gonna have to finish blocks. So it becomes a little more different, obviously, when you get into that phase of.
What do you? The second clip from Bill Callahan, the second of 3 on JC Latham, where he's continuing to really just gush about his guy. And we knew pre-draft this was his guy, and he's given you a lot of the reasons why. Now, JC has looked the part and shown us what I think he's demonstrated. He's embodied a lot of the things that guys on this coaching staff like Bill fell in love with pre-draft. And here he is talking about how this guy's kind of wired different than most of the linemen I've coached so far. Here's what he had to say.
He's built a little bit differently from a mental aspect from most first rounders that I've been around. He'll always do the extra. He's always out here every day. Of course, the story about Rand chasing him out of the rain here a couple weeks ago. Yeah. But he's always doing things to improve his craft, which is fun. It's enjoyable as a coach. You yearn for players like that, in your room, because they're great examples for the other people, for the other guys in the room to learn from. But he's really obsessive about get everything correct. He's a perfectionist that way, so it's fun to watch him go back out on the field and correct something that he wants to get better at.
When it comes to
So I asked Bill, was that something that you guys have been surprised by, the way that he comes in and you're like, wow, look at this kid, look at all the things that he's doing, look at the head on his shoulders? Or was that something that you guys identified in the pre-draft process? Was that a surprise to you all? And here's what he had to say.
Nicholas Petitberg?
We weren't surprised at all. That was the word coming out of Alabama. So just everything that he does, talking to the people, our scouts gave us really good background on him. So his makeup is outstanding in that regard. So he's really a guy that's, like I said, he's incessant about getting everything right. He's just compulsive, behavior where he just wants to be perfect. And that's great. But he also, just visiting with him, he just needs to relax sometimes and just play out his role, just take a deep breath, and let's just get things mastered one thing at a time.
The guy loves JC Latham, and it's very clear the way that he talks about him. It's very clear the way that he coaches him out there. We were beating the JC Latham drum throughout the pre-draft process, and the Titans get him. And he comes in and he does all the things that he's done so far. He says all the things he said so far. My final word on him before we get into the summer is I don't think this guy could have been more impressive during this spring session. Not wearing pads, there's very little room for linemen to really blow you away. I think he found a way to blow me away because I can't say enough good things about him so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the pre-draft process, you were very much higher on JC Latham than I was. Not to say that I wasn't high on JC Latham, but I had...
You had him as a 3rd round pick, I believe? Borderline 3rd, day 3 guy?
Okay, more like my 3rd overall lineman.
Oh, that's right. I knew it was 3rd something. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Joe Alton, Olu, Fashanu were my 1 and 2. However, he has done nothing but continue to make me believe that this guy is probably the number 1 overall line prospect from this draft class. I'm more than happy to be wrong about that because, like you said, these are things that they knew about him coming in, and these are things that we just weren't privy to. And now being able to see the person who he is and the aspect in the work ethic of JC Latham is something just like you. It checks all the boxes for me to think that he can succeed from the get-go in year 1.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, more from Bill Callahan on some... There are other linemen on this team. I don't know if people know this. JC Latham, he's only playing one of the 5 positions. So what about these other guys? How about a little Peter Skoronski talk from Brian Callahan? We spoke to Skoronski last week, and he was talking about how he feels better this year, able to bulk up, feels stronger. Obviously dealt with that emergency appendectomy at the beginning of last season. Really set him back from a strength and a size and a just in every element of him progressing as a rookie. He was set back by that, and it was unfair. He's got a full offseason now to deal with that, and he's back to where he wants to be. And we asked Bill if he has seen positive strides from Skoronski so far, if he believes he's going to potentially be a year 2 jump candidate. Here's what he had to say.
I for the talent that he has, especially when he came out of Northwestern, he had guard and tackle ability. I mean, you could play him anywhere. But it was really great to see him transition, into the inside position. Reminds me a lot, when I had Sheriff and Zach Martin. Those guys were tackles. They were left tackles in college. And they made that transition inside. So very similar in that respect. I think he'll take some leaps in the fall. I'm really hopeful of that. And, just getting the consistency of playing that position at a high level, and I think he's capable of doing that.
I think he'll take some leaps in the fall is something that stuck with me. The way Bill Callahan strikes me as the kind of guy that picks and chooses his words pretty intentionally. And so to say something like that, I think is a strong endorsement of his second year former first round player in Skoronski.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's the line you kind of held on to, and not that he can play anywhere on the line, including a tackle. I'm surprised that wasn't the one that you hung on to. But I agree with you. I mean, I think that given the things that Peter Skoronski had to go through last year, we saw the flashes that he can be, this generational guard prospect. He has the ability to be an all-pro, and, Bill Callahan kind of making that connection to a Zach Martin. I think he sees a lot of that in Peter Skoronski and sees the ability that he can have on the field. So I think everybody is rooting for Peter Skoronski this year. I think shoring up that left side of the line between JC Latham and Lloyd Cushenberry. And I think having Bill Callahan as his coach only gives me more confidence that he can really turn into a special player.
I'm trying to be responsible, trying to be an adult about this, trying to just let it go, and you won't let me let it go. But yeah, no, everything else about your actual answer, I concur with. And as Stoney says in the comments, Big Meat Pete going to be
Big Meat
thriving,
Pete.
running.
Wow.
Running
I mean,
power.
the nicknames that the chat is making up today.
Nasty
Judge,
Nut,
Judy,
Big Meat Pete. Yeah,
we
what
didn't
else?
talk about Nasty Nut today. No, we don't claim that one. That is yours to claim.
So who's we? I claim it. It's a great nickname.
No, I said, but
great nickname.
Yeah. Okay.
He's nasty out. He's nasty with it. That's a compliment. That's a compliment.
Okay.
So a couple more from Bill Callahan, and then I promise we'll shut this circus down. Here's Brian Callahan on the right side of the offensive line. Whether or not it's actually up for grab, are these jobs predetermined? Do you guys have an idea of who you want to be playing these positions, or is it going to be a who comes out in August and earns the spot, who puts on the pads and makes it clear that they are the starter on this team? Here's what he had to say.
All of your guys.
I think so. I think in all fairness, everybody competing for spots and jobs, I think that's the case. I think that, Sadiq, Rad, Dan, all those guys are working extremely hard. There's a lot of versatility there, guys that we can mix and match at the guard spot and also at center. So I'm still kind of looking for the 2 and the 3 center, trying to find ways to build that depth and build that contingency, because as you well know, that can go pretty quick if you do hit that injury snag. So we're trying to build depth there, trying to get more experience. So we're cross-training all those guards at the center position. But I think overall on the right side, yeah, we're just looking for guys to come in and compete. Obviously, when Jalen gets a little bit more healthier and Nick gets back out there and then J.O.'s out there, it should be a lot of fun to watch these guys get after it.
Interesting to hear that he's cross-training. I mean, not interesting that guards are going to cross-train at center, but the way that he's talking about trying to find that contingency plan with the center position and looking internally. As the master offensive line coach that he is, I'm not saying I doubt his ability to turn a guard into a center if he finds a guy with the right traits and the right head on his shoulders. But I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess in my head, I thought they'd probably be looking like, obviously safety, need to go find a vet there. And then, it would not shock me if they went and they found a veteran center to come in and be that contingency plan. That's kind of what I was assuming they'd do, but I don't know. Maybe they just go with a guy that's already in the building.
I mean, I think there are a lot of versatile players that on this team. You even talked to Leroy Watson last week, him playing on both sides of the line. I asked him about his versatility, and he said that he can play anywhere on the line, doesn't prefer to play center, but if Bill says to play center, he's going to play center. So I think that this team, whatever Bill wants these guys to do, I think these guys are rallying around him and they will do it for him. And I feel like there is enough guys on this team that have that ability to play different spots that I think from what my guess is that they probably will go with someone in-house, even though it may be someone who doesn't have a lot of experience at center. I think that if we get closer to the season, there is the opportunity for some of those veteran guys, like a George Fant or a Chris Hubbard, I believe it was his name, Chris Hubbard last year.
The guy was here last year? Yeah, Chris Hubbard.
Opportunity for one of those guys post camp if they still are not happy with the situation. But I think my kind of reading on the situation right now is that they want to try some of these guys out to kind of provide that depth behind Cushenberry.
So we asked Bill about some of the guys on that right side in that competition in particular. In this first clip, we asked him about two guys that have gotten a lot of run. Now, you could argue it's because certain guys are injured or certain guys haven't been out there, but regardless, they have gotten a lot of run with the ones on the right side of the line, and that's John Ajokwu and Sadiq Charles. We asked him about what those guys have done to impress him and the coaching staff so far, and here's what he had to say.
Well, first things first, that would be the classroom. They've got tremendous passion, studying the game, preparing for each day. They'll get the scripts early, and they'll jump on their iPads at night. They'll text questions in to make sure that they're all on the same page in terms of assignments and adjustments. So they're really into that aspect. They study a lot of their own personal cut-ups that we make for them, and they give feedback to that. So that's always positive. And then just their interaction and how active they are in the meeting room. They're well engaged, really great eye contact, and they just have a real passion for football. So I'm really pleased with the group as a whole. But when you watch guys like J.O., it's really fun to watch him improve and get better with reps.
And then finally here, Bill Callahan on Nicholas Petit-Frere, asking about a guy who obviously is not going to, has not been out there so far. He's still on the mend, but he has been in the meeting rooms, in the locker room. Bill has been working with him, and we asked him about what his impression has been of MPF so far. Pretty strong words from Bill here.
He's been great in the film and in the classroom. He's been outstanding. Unfortunately, he's still on the mend, so we haven't had that luxury of getting those reps from the classroom to the grass. But he's excellent. He's got really good awareness. He has really good questions. He can anticipate, adjustments when we're talking through schematics on the board or just in general off the film. So he's been a real pleasure, and I'm excited to get him in training camp when he's healthy and see what we can do.
And I didn't get it on film, but right here you heard Kayla chime in and say, is she's about to say, is he behind the eight ball at all, having not been out here in the spring for that starting right tackle position? And Bill's answer was essentially no. I think that he's fine, which I think lends itself to the fact that I think that if Bill had to sign it today, I think MPF is his ideal right tackle, and we'll see how that goes. But I would not be shocked at all if he's the guy. So, any thoughts on that, JT? Or are we ready to wrap it up here?
Yeah, I mean, the last thought is that I do have to give credit where credit is due. I think that, we kind of started OTAs with saying, ooh, Dylan Radins is the hot commodity. Not saying that he's really cooled off. He still looks impressively better, but man, I have to give it, and Stoney's going to like this. I may be buying my ticket on the John Ajokwu Express. The things I've seen from him in practices on the sleds, in some of these drills, like he was saying, his coachability has been something that is really cool to see. And I think that I'm confident that this guy can be a role player at least, if not be a solid fill-in replacement level tackle for this team going down the road. If MPF should continue to be hurt, as well as Jalen Duncan still not being a fully 100%, like I'm starting to kind of buy in on the hype.
All right. Let's end on that. And
Yeah,
you know what? I think that would be fantastic. I'll be with you on that, and I'll be celebrating Stoney all the way if he's correct on that. And John Njoku is the guy. Also, because there are certain people in town that have said, so UDFA is your starting tackle. Don't trust it. Can't have it. Won't do it. Anyways, Ojuku.
Ojuku.
That's gonna be it from us today. Hey guys, before you leave, Thursday, we need your questions. We have already gotten a couple of you sending in questions. It doesn't have to be a question, it can just be a comment. Send us mail. We're doing a mailbag. We need your mail, or else Thursday is going to be a lot of us sitting around twiddling our thumbs, looking pretty on camera, and nobody wants that. We want
send Easton a Hallmark card in the mail, please.
Send us some mail, including
Hallmark cards.
If you have to get in your question via card, that's a funny bit. I don't recommend it because I hate cards, but if you want to do that, you can. Good luck finding my address. Okay, until Thursday, send us your questions. You have 47 hours now to get your questions, and we'll be back with a big fat mailbag on Thursday. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. Like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend about the show. We'll talk to you on Thursday.